All right, thank you all for coming. It's always awesome to see like new folks showing up, taking up the path of Zen, which is something I'm in favor of. So every Thursday we do a Dharma talk, and usually I'll pull something out of some set of Zen scriptures, or there's a number of collections of things called koans, which are stories of the interactions of different Zen teachers and Zen students, and usually there's some sort of a message or a theme, and then I'll sort of riff on that. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. This is called the Blue Cliff Record. This is a translation of a collection of Chinese koans that go back over 1,000 years. And as you may or may not be aware, the Chinese are a very literary culture and have been that way for a long, long time. This one that we're going to look at is called the Stone Bridge of Joshu. So Joshu is a very famous Zen teacher. You may have heard of him from the koan Mu, which we may discuss at another time. Okay, so it goes like this. A monk asked Joshu, "Long have I heard of the Stone Bridge of Joshu, but now that I've gotten here, I see only a simple log bridge." Joshu said, "You just see the log bridge, you don't see the stone bridge." The monk asked, "What is the stone bridge?" Joshu said, "It lets asses cross, it lets horses cross." What is the stone bridge? So with these koans, often the first thing is we kind of have to put ourselves into the scene, like what's going on here, right? So a lot of times a little bit of historical context is important. So in this time, it was common for students to travel around and see different teachers and work with them. And so Joshu is a very famous Zen teacher, both in his own time and in our time. And so this is a student who has come along, and presumably Joshu has given some kind of talk, or someone else has. They've talked about the stone bridge, and so the student's arriving and he's expecting to see a stone bridge, and he just sees a wood bridge. And he's like, "Well, what's the stone bridge?" And Joshu says, "Oh, you don't see it, but it lets horses cross, it lets asses cross," right? So what is the bridge that lets the wise and the ignorant to cross? Right? What is it that we don't see? So in Zen, Zen is heavily influenced by Taoism, and one of the principles is, if you can talk about it, that's not it, right? As soon as I say it, now I've missed it. Like, well, what does that mean? It's like, well, there's no one standard that works all the time. We can even take something really extreme, like, well, I shouldn't hit people. It's like, well, if someone's trying to kidnap my kid, right, then I'm gonna save my kid, right? So what's the one rule that works all the time? Well, there isn't one, right? So then it can't be a particular way of being. It has to be the open receptivity and capacity to pay attention to what's happening both externally and within ourselves, and then meet the moment in that place of present awareness where we can respond authentically to what's right in front of us. And our practice then becomes about being free, right? That we're free from our history, we're free from our old patterns and conditioning. They may be there, we may notice our old patterns, our old opinions, our old vibes, right? They come up, but because we have our mindfulness, we see them come up and we have a choice to make. We can do the same thing we've always done, or maybe we can do something different. We can do something that's appropriate. So that's what the it is, right? So that's the stone bridge, right? You can't see it. You can't see it because it doesn't exclude anything. It's everything and nothing. But even when I start to talk about it, right, immediately the words start falling apart, because if I say, well, like when you're raising children, like, should you be strict or soft? Well, I don't know. What's the situation? What did the kid do? What kind of kid is it? What's their temperament and personality, right? So all of the conditions arrive in the moment. And then enlightenment is the capacity to meet that moment free of anything extra, and then respond, right? And try to respond to those conditions and be of benefit as best we can. So what does that mean? That means our awareness is a stone bridge, right? Between where we are and what's the most skillful response. And so then, I don't know about you guys, but in my life, like, horses go across and asses go across. So how do we respond, right? Horses go across the TV and asses go across the TV, and everyone now, you look around and like everyone is, decided who, depending on what team you are and whatever issue you're wanting to talk about and whatever opinion you're going to stand behind, we've decided who are the horses and who are the asses, and now we're going to fight about it. And I'm not here to make political endorsements, right? But what I'm here to do is to point out that when we start selecting and getting attached to, well, we're going to shut this out and keep this close, we leave the path of wisdom. When we start closing doors, we're saying, well, I'm not the kind of person who does blah, 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 right? Because of course, horses and asses also live within ourselves, right? We have beautiful, flowing, galloping horse aspects of our personality, things we're proud of, things we've achieved, things we know we're good at, right? And then we have aspects that we keep kind of, let's just put that off to the side. I don't want anyone to see that, right? But our mind is a field of awareness. It's a stone bridge. It lets everything across, whether you like it or not, right? The thing about the stone bridge is that it's not, like, it's too late. Like, it doesn't restrict anything from crossing. We are who we are. We show up in each moment with everything that we are. All of our baggage, all of our problems, all of our benefits, all of our strengths, all of it. We show up with all of it. And so what Joshu is suggesting, right, is that this way of being, you can't see it because it's not a filter. It's the opposite of a filter. It's completely unfiltered. This is the practice of working with what is. This is a rigorous spiritual path because there's no exit ramps. It's like I sit here and I find myself, angry at a person in my life. Well, I can use some kind of a tactic. I could say like, well, I'm just going to think positive thoughts about them until I stop feeling that way, right? Or I could use an escape. I can go watch TV. I can play video games. I can drink, right? To try to dodge away from, but all of that is investing in not looking at what is, but it's already too late. Like the ass has already walked across the bridge. And so, Joshu is kind of a genius because what he's pointing out is the beginning of working with anything skillfully is acknowledging that it's already crossed the bridge. The things about myself that I dislike they're already there. And so we allow, when we sit, right, we allow what comes up into the mind to be there, even if it's something from our shadow, even if it's something taboo, even if it's something, that we're ashamed of. That doesn't mean we act on it, but we can't deal with it if we don't allow it, So that means that in Zen, we sit, right? Notice the breath. And then things come up. And we can even choose to turn our attention to something hard and then just sit with it, right? Something that's a hard, challenging situation. Just sit with that. Because there's this weird thing that happens. Like when we allow something to exist and we don't fight it, everything is impermanent, so it collapses. Our emotions end. Around Thanksgiving, my mother-in-law passed away, and she was a very vibrant member of our family, and it was somewhat unexpected when she passed away. And I have an 8-year-old daughter, and she was very involved in my daughter's life. And so a couple of nights ago, my daughter was looking at some pictures and just started sobbing. And she was just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And so what's happening, right? Something is coming across my bridge. And I have to decide, well, what am I going to do with this thing that's coming across my bridge, right? I could try to change it. It's going to be okay, right? I could do something silly and try to get her distracted and happy again because, it didn't feel great to me to watch her sob, because it brought up all my feelings about it too. And then I started crying. And so now we're both crying. And she sobbed for probably 15 minutes. I mean, it was intense. But what I chose to do is to allow it, to say, she's grieving. That's okay. It's good that she's grieving. Right? She needs to grieve. This is a big deal. And I held her, and my wife came in and she held her for a while, and we all cried, and it lasted 15 or 20 minutes. And it sort of had a natural conclusion, and then we sort of recentered, and then, we went on with our evening. And nothing was wrong, right? It just crossed the bridge. Didn't have to mean anything. But how much could we have created, right? I mean, there's a moment where you could create a whole different experience where we refuse to allow what is. And so this is the thing I recommend, is the reason we sit is to develop the capacity to just allow our lives to be what they are, and then make choices about what to do. That's liberation. It's not that we're liberated from some external force. We're liberated from our own internal responses being the same old internal responses that we've always had. And we're free to just stop and go, well, I really want to change the subject so I don't have to feel this. But I think that maybe what's happening is natural and I should just allow it. And then I do that. So here we are, right? We have a human life, and in that human life, horses come across the bridge and asses come across the bridge. And they're within ourselves, they're within everyone around us. And they're already there. So our goal as practitioners is to just be still and see what's there. And then trust that we'll know what to do, that we'll know the appropriate action, right? That within you is the wisdom to know what to do. Right? You don't have to judge by a specific standard or have a particular plan. You can just be with that moment and just see what emerges. And it's been my experience, if you do that, miracles happen. Like unexpected things shift, and you have a really different experience of your life. So that's what I would encourage. Okay, I think that's probably enough.